For the last 2 years, the skies around Alaska have been quiet, too quiet. But last week, everything changed. When US F-35 stealth fighters scrambled at 2:14 a.m. to intercept multiple Russian military aircraft racing toward the Alaska Air Defense Identification Zone, nobody expected what happened next. This wasn't a simple routine intercept. This time, something unexpected forced NORAD to activate emergency protocols never seen publicly before. And what the Russian jets did next shocked everyone. This is the full story of how America's most advanced stealth fighter confronted Russia's long-range strike aircraft near Alaska. Why the Kremlin sent those jets in the first place. And how a silent encounter in freezing Arctic skies might be the closest the US and Russia have come to a real airborne confrontation in 2025. Because this time, satellite data, US radar logs, and pilots' radio chatter confirm one thing. Russia was testing something new. Part 1, the warning. At 2:08 a.m., the massive long-range radar at Clear Space Force Station detected unidentified tracks approaching the ADIZ from the Russian Far East. At first, it looked normal. Russian aircraft occasionally approached the edge of US airspace to test response times. But this night, the radar signatures were different. The objects were flying unusually low over the Bering Sea, changing altitude rapidly, not using standard military transponders. And one aircraft was flying with near-total radio silence. NORAD classified the tracks as potential high-risk article. 6 minutes later, the decision was made. Launch the F-35s. Part 2, the Scramble. 2 F-35 Lightning II fighters from Eielson Air Force Base took off instantly. Pilots later described the weather as pitch black, freezing, and unforgiving. But the F-35s had the advantage. Their APG-81 ESA radar can identify aircraft at massive ranges far beyond what Russian crews expect. Within minutes, the F-35s locked onto the unknown aircraft. And that's when they recognized the formation. 1. 2 Russian Tu-95 MS strategic bombers. 2. 1 IL-78 aerial refueler. 3. And shockingly, a MiG-31BM interceptor, flying unusually close to the bombers. This configuration was not normal. Russia rarely sends a MiG-31BM all the way into this region. It's a fast interceptor meant for hunting stealth fighters. The US pilots instantly understood the message. Russia wasn't just probing. They were practicing a coordinated long-range strike package. Part 3, Close Encounter. As the F-35s approached, something unexpected happened. The Tu-95 bombers suddenly cut their altitude from 28,000 feet to 19,000 feet, a dangerous move in Arctic airspace. Moments later, the MiG-31BM broke formation and began a climb directly toward the F-35s. Altitude. NORAD analysts immediately flagged this as unusual and aggressive behavior. In previous interactions, Russian jets typically hold their course. But this time, it felt coordinated, almost like the Russians wanted to test whether they could force an F-35 to reveal its stealth signature. US Air Force policy requires American jets to keep a safe distance. But the Russian MiG-31 didn't care. It kept climbing, closing, provoking. Inside the F-35 cockpit, threat indicators started blinking. Not because the Russian jet locked on, but because the MiG-31 was flying in a way that mimicked a simulated radar attack. That was the moment the F-35 pilot issued the first warning call. Russian aircraft, this is US military interceptor. Maintain heading. Maintain altitude. The Russian pilot did not respond. Instead, he did something no one expected. Part 4, the turn. The MiG-31 suddenly banked hard left, slicing across the projected flight path of one of the F-35s, a highly dangerous maneuver at high altitude. This forced the US pilot to shift position to avoid a collision. At that moment, NORAD issued an alert. Non-standard maneuver. Potential attempt to map stealth signature. What does that mean? Russia has been trying for years to find ways to detect stealth aircraft like the F-35 and F-22. One method involves forcing the stealth jet to change speed or angle, creating a small but detectable radar return. If Russia could record even a fraction of that return, it could help develop new anti-stealth systems. And that's exactly what analysts believe the MiG-31 was trying to do. But it failed. Why? Because the F-35 pilot didn't take the bait. He stayed completely silent, completely cold, and kept the jet in stealth-optimized flight configuration, revealing nothing. Moments later, the second F-35, still unseen by the Russians, positioned itself behind the bombers. And then, something new happened. Part 5, the F-35 goes invisible. Unlike older fighters, the F-35 can go completely dark. It can intercept without turning on radar, without using lights, and without appearing on Russian sensors. As the MiG-31 engaged the first F-35, the second Lightning II slipped right behind the Tu-95 bombers, so close that US pilots could see the rotating propellers glowing in the moonlight. Russian crews had no idea an F-35 was there. And then, the situation escalated. One of the Tu-95 bombers opened its bomb bay doors. Not fully. Just slightly. A signal. A test. A challenge. This could mean a systems check, a provocation, or a simulated missile release. US pilots reported it immediately. NORAD raised readiness condition across the region. For 5 long seconds, nobody knew what the bomber would do. Then it closed the doors. And that's when everything changed. Part 6, the mystery signal. Suddenly, all 3 Russian aircraft emitted a short-range encrypted burst transmission toward the MiG-31BM. Experts believe it was either a coordinated retreat command, a sensor test, or data collection signal. But one thing is clear. Seconds after that transmission, every Russian aircraft in the formation turned away from US airspace with perfect synchronization. Almost like the entire mission was never meant to cross the line, but was simply designed to see how far they could push. US F-35s escorted them until they left the ADIZ. The encounter lasted 41 minutes. But that's not the end of the story. Because when the Russian jets returned home, something unexpected happened in Moscow. Part 7, what Russia was really doing. Intelligence sources and defense analysts believe this was not a routine mission. Multiple clues confirmed this was a test of US reaction to a new Russian strategy. 1. Tu-95 bombers flying lower. 2. A MiG-31 escort in Arctic airspace. 3. Encrypted short-burst signals during intercept. 4. Bomb bay door test. 5. Aggressive MiG-31 maneuver. Analysts believe Russia was practicing scenario simulation. How fast can the US detect, scramble, and intercept a nuclear-capable formation? Because the Tu-95 is Russia's primary long-range nuclear bomber. In other words, Russia wanted to measure US readiness. And the F-35 proved something important. America sees everything. This wasn't just an intercept. It was a message from both sides. Russia's saying, "We're still here. We still have reach." The United States responding silently with the F-35. "You can fly as close as you want. But you will never see us coming." The intercept ended without missiles, without radar locks, without escalation. But it revealed something powerful. In the Arctic skies between the US and Russia, the smallest moves matter. One wrong angle, one misunderstood maneuver, one sudden altitude drop, and the world can change in seconds. So the real question is, what happens the next time these two nuclear powers meet in the freezing darkness near Alaska? And if Russia keeps pushing, will the next intercept really be as calm as this one?